Welcome to Conflict TV. I am your host, James Rollins. Join us as we explore the core of human discord, from personal clashes to societal divides. Together, we'll discover the art of conflict resolution and celebrate the power of reconciliation. Stay tuned for stories that transform rivalry into understanding as we learn from experts of the art of transforming confrontation into common ground. Your journey to understanding how conflict meets resolution starts now. Imagine this, a heated playground spat that could derail a kid's entire school year, or a boardroom clash threatening to tank a major project. Sound familiar? Today, we're plunging into the stirring realm of mediation, the ultimate superpower that flips conflicts on their head, transforming tension into triumph in schools and workplaces alike. Picture navigating bully battles in crowded classrooms versus remote work rifts fueled by endless Zoom calls and cultural clashes. Mediation isn't just a fix. It's the spark for deeper connections and smarter prevention. Buckle up as we chat with Dr. Bernadette Tracy, a master mediator with battle-tested wisdom from the front lines.
Thank you, James. It's a pleasure to be here and engage in conversation with you about my love, mediation, especially as I've seen it within the school environment. I was very fortunate to have a period of a decade in which I engaged as a mediating consultant to a school district here in Western New York. And through that experience, I saw the transformation of a school environment. From students walking with baggy pants and black fingernail polish and scanty dress to an environment where every child came with pants, dresses, or shorts that had to reach your fingertips, to kids caring about the kids that were bullied. Through mediation, we developed a program with the children where they got a buddy system for bullying, so that if anybody was being bullied, you were just as wrong if you stood by and saw the bullying as if you were one of the bullies. And they began to have their own way of rewarding their co-students who stood up for somebody who was being bullied. So they had a reward board. And through our mediation club, they created a program where the school administration posted those rewards on the board, and there were elections for best school character, best promoter of peace, best caring person. They created their own labels, and they ended up really in an environment that anybody would just be thrilled to walk through.
Interpersonal conflicts arising from personality clashes, differing work styles, or stress, often leading to tension between individuals.
Hit us with the essentials. As a professional mediator, what are the most common types of conflict you encounter in school settings, and how do they differ from those in workplaces?
In the school setting, the conflicts tend to be boyfriend, girlfriend, and
Hmm.
as one. And the other type of real conflict is, again, in the area of um, among the males, among a sense of macho versus cooperative. If you are getting along with people, you're seen as and so that conflict about how gentle a boy or male should be versus how much macho he has to show. And needless to say, they'd have different disputes going on all the continuum from
So there are gender differences, and does that carry over into the workplace, or does it differ, in the workplace versus in the schools?
in the workplace. The differences, I should say, the key difference is that the workplace, people are targeting towards what they believe to be professional goals, success, um, being able to move up the line, so to speak. Uh, and the interplay that tends to happen is between supervisors and employees. So the conflict, in the most part, tends to be with the perception of an employee group perceiving favoritism um, among other coworkers and wanting or feeling that they didn't get the promotion that they deserved. The biggest thing that kind of binds them both is that the issues and circumstances may be different in terms of the environments they're in, but it's a question of the understanding that needs to be gained so that each party can understand the perceptions from which the other person they're dealing with is coming. And that deeper understanding puts them in a position to widen their view of the situation.
Hmm. So when you say understanding, then I hear you saying that then there has to be, they have to be able to hear one another. And with that being said, in your experience, what role does active listening play in resolving workplace conflicts, and
The
how do
most,
you teach it to participants?
the most critical skill in mediation is active listening. And what I mean by active listening is listening not to be able to reflect or repeat what another person says. It's listening truly to understand from that other person's perspective. So when I listen, even actively listen, very often I am also thinking at the same time, what am I going to say next? Uh, Evaluate. They're saying this, but I know it's different over here. I'm engaging in a mental activity that's centered on me as opposed to being centered on the person speaking. So when I talk about, I call it deep listening,
Mhm.
it's listening, I guess, to understand from that other person's perspective. So I am non-judgmental about what they're saying. I don't have to agree with that, but I am so curious to want to know where they're coming from. I stay with them until I feel I understand what you say.
Workplace mediation. At the workplace, miscommunications. ignored directives, or breakdowns in sharing updates, which can affect team performance.
That suggests a level of empathy, which kind of leads me to my next question, especially when you consider, cultural or diversity factors, and so what I'm wondering is how do cultural and diversity factors influence conflict resolution in schools versus the workplaces?
In schools, the drive tends to be parental influence. In the workplace, it tends to be accumulated unconscious bias.
So, what strategies then do you employ to address those two dynamics that you just noted from the workplace to the school environment?
The transitional pieces that we use are experiential.
Hmm.
So it's a matter of, in some instances, giving them a story, having them consider that story from different points of view. We may also use one of the tests that come out of Harvard that in the workplace that help people see actually they didn't recognize they had a bias against, but the test results showed that they did. Okay, so we can use standardized tools, but what I tend to use more so in my practice are scenarios that I create that I have youngsters uh, act out so that they are engaging in the situation and then have them switch roles
Hmm.
so that they see it from both sides of view.
So they get an opportunity to exercise empathy. So, how do you prepare for a mediation session in a workplace setting, including any tools or frameworks that you, as a mediation professional, would depend upon?
In the workplace session, I also might add that a lot of mediation is done in group. So it may be a work group as opposed to just an individual person. And in that case, we're dealing with a inter-team um, relationship situation. Um, and how I prepare for the workplace would be I go in and do a needs assessment.
Very, very helpful, very interesting as well. And when you think about it, we're going to take a break right here, Dr. Burney. And on the other side of the break, we're going to come back because I can tell you that our viewing audience is going to be extremely pleased to hear what else you have to say in regards to this most important topic. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. Again, we are enjoying our conversation with Dr. Burney, and Dr. Burney will pick up from where we left off on the other side of the break. What advice would you give to educators or managers on preventing conflicts before they escalate to needing mediation?
The first thing I would advise is that you talk to the individuals involved that you perceive are having the difficulty, and you gain an understanding of their perspective of the issue. As a manager, I was able to work pretty successfully with people coming from different walks of life and literally the ethnic background uh, conflicts that came up. And by being able to really get to know your people,
Mhm.
it is amazing the degree to which, without even saying much, you can diffuse a potential danger situation. You know, for example, that a Jewish holiday is coming up.
Hmm.
It's a Christian environment. So you either have a disgruntled Jewish employee who feels they've been ignored or that nobody cares. It's my, it's like I'm doing something wrong, taking a day off for Rosh Hashanah. Or you bring Rosh Hashanah to the forefront as we have a family here. And we talk about that. We maybe ask the employee, tell us a little bit about it. What does happen? What happens in your household? And that way, I have avoided anybody feeling either, oh, they're paying all this attention to her because, or I'm being left out. So get to know your people and know them well enough to know the things that they tell you, like, they've worked places and everybody does this or that to them. So you're sensitive and you're already aware. So you have your antenna up.
Wow, you got my mind really going, especially when I think about the different levels of what educators have to deal with in terms of needing the kind of sage advice that you provided, but also the different work environments. Whether it's a family-owned company, whether it's a large company, or whether it's a Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 company. I've got to believe that that poses a different set of challenges just because of the size of the environment or the practices that take place.
They can be different, but there are some common threads. I call it, or the one common thread is to just understand people are people.
You
And people are awesome.
mean the
And
complexity of
I
simplicity?
believe people are awesome.
People are awesome.
There is nothing that an individual cannot achieve that they can conceive. And if you really believe that about people, you don't have, you can create an environment as a teacher in a classroom, as a manager in a work environment. It doesn't matter the size
Mhm.
or the kind. It matters what's coming in terms of your intent toward positive relationships around you.
Hmm.
Your intent about wanting to show people how you care. So many people haven't had anybody around them that is willing to show, I care.
That's a great segue when I think about it, because in your view, how has the rise of remote work affected conflict resolution in professional environments?
The rise of the what? I didn't catch the word.
The rise of remote
Oh, remote,
work,
like
yeah, the
yeah.
rise of remote work and how that has affected conflict resolution in the professional environments. I think I just saw I forget, one of the big Fortune 100 companies says they were going to spend $3 billion to build a facility so that everybody can come back into the workplace. And with that in mind, in your view, how has the rise of remote work affected conflict resolution in professional environments, and what adaptations have you had to make as a conflict resolution professional?
Well, we'll switch in and out, okay? I would say that many companies are learning to bring it back in, to bring people back in, because they're beginning to understand that people are not mechanical and they're not digital and they're not anything, but they are the ones that make those things work. And
Hmm.
until they are in some kind of harmony with each other, understanding each other's points of view, looking and willingness to collaborate, cooperate with each other, they're not going to be able to get everything they want done, because even in AI, you got to put it in order for AI to kick it out.
Workplace mediation at the workplace. U.S. workforce, presently 22% working remotely. Projected to 50% in year 2030.
So, with that being said, what key lessons have you learned from failed mediation attempts in both schools or workplaces, and how have they shaped your approach as an expert in this area of conflict resolution?
That's a very interesting question. And I will answer it this way. What it's taught me is that I can only have an influence on those who choose to be influenced.
Hmm.
That individuals have their own basis upon which they will accept a willingness or intend to benefit, or they won't. If the intention is not there to want to do better, be better, have it better, see it better, if that's not an intention, then I have to accept my humanity as one over which I don't have control.
What's one common mistake, in your professional opinion? What is one common mistake that employers make when trying to resolve disputes internally?
Trying to make decisions for the parties rather than asking the parties to create to present the resolution themselves.
Mm. Well, I have to say, when you think about that, and I'm sure you would know better than as well as anyone, workplace conflict is often unavoidable, but not always unhealthy.
No.
How can organizations reframe conflict as a path to improvement?
Well, conflict is an opportunity. And so, and it is a part of life, as they say, the one constant in life is change.
Hmm.
And change creates friction, and friction creates conflict.
Mm.
So it's going to happen. But if you see it as an opportunity as opposed to a negative, even a strong disagreement is an opportunity to come up with enriched, new, bold ideas that never were on the table before.
Hmm.
So if one knows how to create an environment to process differences, the whole place grows.
Wow. When I think about that, there's perhaps a misperception then, that because conflict is unavoidable, that it is always unhealthy.
Oh, it's the greatest opportunity we have to change for the better,
It is the greatest opportunity that we have for change
to the better, for the better.
for the better.
Yes.
That's an interesting dynamic when you think about it, because most people would not see, even consider that within conflict lies opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, as you've watched it over the years, especially in the workplace as well as in the educational environments, uh, would you say that it's different, as I said earlier, based on for smaller organizations, or even at different levels on the educational side? For example, in the elementary schools versus, say, the middle school to a high school environment, even to a college environment, or that same dynamic within a mom and pop operation versus a larger company versus a, well-established corporation.
James, I'd say we have to really just look at it. I almost want to call it from a developmental point of view.
Hmm.
So we look at what it is at in terms of the spheres of development, or the stage of development in which children are. So uh, from the youngest groups of children, when you know, excuse me, that such concepts as conservation and so forth are there, you can't try to bring them in and do things that requires they to conserve, you know. And the same thing as we go through, the middle school is a wonderful group of youngsters to deal with because at that level they're kind of in transition into their logical thought processes and beginning to begin that capacity, and they are just so funny and great in terms of exploring how they're going to make sense out of the world they're living in and come up with these bold ideas and so forth. But you recognize that they're not going to have full developed capacity in the brain for 100% logic until they're at the age of 30.
Wow.
So I'm not, can't handle them, I'll say. In the same way, when I walk into the adult office of the 25, 35-year-olds, I have to have another level of appreciation that they don't need to be taught, talked to, or anything else like a 10-year-old. They have a bank of experiences that they come with. They have more to teach me than I ever will have to teach them because I'm getting from 10 of them and they're only getting from one of me.
Wow, that is profound.
Workplace mediation at the workplace, bullying and harassment, allegations of intimidating behavior, dismissing ideas, or undermining authority in the workplace. Issues stemming from diverse backgrounds, feedback styles, or cultural differences in interactions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bernie Tracy. Wow, you for being such a wonderful guest. I have to say, it's been a privilege to share a facet of the intricate dance of disagreement and resolution with you. And as I say to our viewing audience as well, remember the bridges we build from the timbers of conflict that can lead us, as you just aptly noted, to new prospects of understanding and cooperation. And so, as your host, I am James Rollins. Until the next episode of Conflict TV, we look forward to seeing you. We thank you, Dr. Bernadette Tracy, for being
And thank you for this opportunity.